to my channel. It is Carrie from Coffee and Crafts, and today we are going to do some healthcare, some mental and physical healthcare in the form of coloring. So welcome. I hope you are doing fabulous on this July afternoon and that you have been able to make some time for your own personal mental health in the form of coloring. If not, now's your chance. You can color along with me if you own Magical Jungle. If you are new here, welcome. If you subscribed to my channel recently, thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you and hope you enjoy your time hanging out here with me. All right, so let's get started. Let's find the page that we're working on. This is my first page that I've christened in this book. And I've done a few shorts with pieces of it, of what I've been up to, but haven't actually shown the whole page, I don't think. So with this, I'm having fun with this page. I'm not usually a yellow fan, but I kind of pictured this as being in the desert and like they found a bunch of things, threw it together to make a house. Like this totally looks to me like bicycle locks that they found and made windows out of it. Yeah, and this looks like PVC pipe. I'm pretty sure this is a box. I'm not sure what. Because of the graphic, I think this is a box. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this is metal or plastic? They used leaves to make umbrellas. It's a very creative piece. So, I also have thought this is many different things, but I think in the end that this is water. So I'm probably going to pull some blue in. I am using a color wheel. So I'm trying to use color theory to make my pieces blend well. So here's this little color wheel that I have that you can pick up for I think we paid $5, and even that was overcharged at a local art store. But this is a pocket color wheel. The smaller ones are a little cheaper. The bigger ones are probably around $10 to $12. But what we are doing is we are using this triangle. So you use a triangle and turn the wheel for what colors you want to use, and then it helps you pick the other two colors, or three, depending on what you're doing. So we're using this inside triangle. It's called a split complementary. It's yellow, green, and violet. Now I've also pulled in some brown, and I'm going to pull in some blue, just because of the page that it is, but that's what we're doing. We picked some colors of colored pencils. Oh, a correction, watercolor pencils to use on this piece. All right, so what are we using? I'll kind of go through what colors I'm using. So I've got 3 greens here. We're using juniper green for the dark, leaf green for the medium, and light green for the light. So these are in fact Faber-Castell Albert Dürer watercolor pencils. Now I like using them because I like watercolor, but the pencils, you don't have to use as much water, so they work really well in coloring books. All right, for our violet, we have like a pink, kind of pinkish violets. It's not a true violet, but it's what I chose. Light magenta, red violet, of course, and crimson. And then for our yellow, I'm only using 2. So I have this cream and then light cadmium yellow. Now for my browns, I've pulled in kind of this yellowish brown. It's called green gold. And then my dark brown is burnt sienna. Pretty common color to use. Alright, so that's my pencils that I've picked out. I've got some watercolor brushes here. We'll use a couple of different sizes of kind of number 4 and a number 0. And the watercolor, I got a couple of brands. I've got these Da Vinci Cosmo top spins. I like those. Now these are expensive, and I'm not saying you should go out and buy expensive watercolor brushes. I used to dabble in watercolor prior to this channel, and so I had them on hand. Okay, and then I also have some Grumbacher's. The main thing is get something with a synthetic material, not a natural fiber, because natural fibers will absorb the water a lot. It's like a sponge, but these not as much. Some, but not as much. So that's the main thing, and you can get cheap ones anywhere. Amazon, Michael's. Can't say Joann's anymore. Still kind of getting used to that. Alright, so now that we've talked about supplies and what we're doing, let's talk about what we're actually doing. So as the title of the video mentioned, we're going to work on some flowers and shells. Now, I know what you're saying. There's a million, not flowers. Did I say flowers? Alright. What we're going to be working on today, as the title suggested, shells and leaves. Okay, so I know there's a lot of videos on shells and leaves out there already, so why would I want to do one and not just call it a color along? Well, I've watched a few videos, and there are a lot, I admit, but I couldn't find my exact shells that I was working on out of this book, and so that didn't really help me very much. So I decided there are never too many videos on shells and leaves. There's so many different shapes and sizes and situations that it's valuable to go over them in different scenarios. Alright, and I don't claim to be an expert at all. This is my first year coloring. I'm watching lots of YouTube, trying to learn as much as I can, and if you have any tips, I would appreciate hearing about it in the comments, or tell me if I'm on the right track, or you know, maybe a different method would have been better. Alright, and some of that is opinion, and yes, I want to get better, but no, I am not pressured to be a professional artist. I am doing this for mental health, and I enjoy sharing it with you guys, and it's kind of like we're coloring together. Alright, so let's get started. Let's start on some shells. So I'm going to do the dry method. A lot of times I like to use a brush and just dip the pencil, and we can demonstrate that at some point. But we're doing the dry method, which means I'm just going to color like it's a regular coloring pencil, and then after I fill it in, then we'll use some water to activate it. Alright, so let's get started. And we're just going to do light pressure all along these leaves. It's a little dangerous to be doing two different things in one video. So we're just doing light pressure to cover the base color to base these, almost did it again, shells with the color cream. So let's get that done, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, we've got a good base coat on our shells from the cream, and now we're going to activate it with water. I've zoomed in, so sorry, you'll have to excuse my super hand. I'll try to keep it out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. So we're just running a light amount of water to fill in all those white spaces. And if you have a good bead going of water, just move it along in one direction. I have a little bit of one. If you are going to run out, and you can, try to end where it's going to be the darkest, which will be where they meet. This type of shell is going to be dark where they meet. I don't know if that'll be true for all shells, but it's a good thought. Something to keep in mind. Where is it going to be darkest? Maybe end your water bead there. Alright, moving right along. I'm using my number 4. I think I mentioned that. Number 4 Grumbacher synthetic brush. And I just love how the watercolor pencils smooth the color out with very little effort. There. So now that's all filled in and activated. We got a nice yellow base. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna let it dry. So I'm gonna let it dry, and while that's drying, we can start talking about our leaves. So even though you need to let things dry, it doesn't mean that it stops you from coloring. It just means maybe you work on a different area for a little bit. Okay, so for my greens, I have 3 to choose from. And like I said, I've seen some videos and they all make sense, but they weren't the leaves that I was working on. Exactly, the leaves that I was working on, so it didn't really help me. The one thing I think I have learned the most is pay attention to the artist's graphics and how it was drawn. And where there's creases and lines, that's usually going to be a dark area. So no matter what kind of leaf you have, pay attention to where there's markings are and try to make those dark. And then imagine where the light might be hitting it for the lighter areas. You have to have dark in order to have light. That's something to keep in mind. All right, so we're gonna start. We're gonna start with just basing the leaves with this light green. So we're gonna do light pressure and just color in these leaves. Unless you want some white space, then you could preserve that. But I think with these, they're pointing down. I don't think they're going to get a lot of lighting. I think they're going to be darker. So I'm just going to do a base of green. Ooh, that's pretty. I like this color. Get enough on there. You want to make sure you get enough pigment to be able to spread something around. And I'm going to use my number 4 again because we're just basing and it's not super tiny. So we're just going to activate. Oh dear, my brush is not clean. It has some of the cream on it, so let's rinse that. Do our double rinse. Remember, you have clean water and dirty water, so you want to do a double rinse. And then, yeah, that's better. So you're not contaminating your colors. unless you want to change it, you can do that. Alright, we've got that pretty well filled in. Let's do a little bit more water. And if you feel like there's not enough color, then you can come back and add more and activate it again. Alright, so while that's drying, we can, it's a little, if it's cool to the touch, then it's too soon. But this feels pretty dry, so I think we can go ahead with the shells. Alright, so the shells that I looked up, because it's always good to do a reference. They had pink like kind of up the edges and in the base where they meet. So that's the method we're going to use here. So we're going to start with just outline coloring on top of this line work like this. But try to make it thicker than the line there, but no thicker. Like we're not trying to color in, we're not trying to cover up the yellow. Okay. So we do something like that. You could do this edge here, but I don't think it's necessary. Something like that. All right, and then we'll take our brush. I think we'll step down to a number 2. Now we're doing more detailed work. Or this 0. I have this 0. It's a little frayed. Okay, so we get that wet, and then we're just kind of pulling it out and softening it. We're trying to give it a pink tone that's over yellow. So not trying to cover a layer over yellow and change the color, but just giving it a pink tone. Something like that. Okay, and then we'll let that dry. While that's drying, we'll move on to the next shell. So we're just doing nice thick lines along the creases where the shells meet. And then we take our number 2 brush and we just kind of soften that, pull it in a little bit, get it to blend with the yellow. This is a good example that you can use different colors to blend and get a what do you call that? A gradient. So yeah, you're just not wanting hard lines, and how much you cover up the yellow is up to you. You can have it curve around if you want to a little bit. It's totally up to you. And you could do each shell a little bit differently. You know, maybe it's lighter in the middle and darker on the sides. But I think that looks cool. I think that looks shell-like. All right. Let's move on to the, oh, that's the wrong color. Move on to another shell. We're just doing a nice, and it's pretty easy and simple to do. You don't have to be talented. And you can come up with a cool effect. Okay. Oh, did I switch? I switched to a 0. Alright, how is it with a 0? It's a little easier to control with a smaller brush, but that's kind of my style. I'm kind of OCD, so I tend to like smaller tools and take things in bite-size pieces, but you do you. If you want to do a bigger brush and do it faster, and I'm sure that'll look good too. So we lost some of the darkness right there, but it's okay. Some of this is letting go of perfection. Life is not perfection. You're not going to find perfect shells or leaves out there, although beautiful. Life is not perfect. So if you were to draw something perfectly, I don't think it would look realistic. So it's okay to be imperfect. Okay, so I got nice thick lines on that one. We're gonna dip our brush. We're using the 0 again, size 0, and we're just softening that and kind of blending it and kind of almost doing a little dot, like little dabs. I found that works pretty well for me lately, especially at these tiny areas. Okay, this has got kind of a hard line. Let's push it around a little bit. Pushed it on both sides. Now you could have some in this top area to be darker, like right here where they meet. You could blend all and cover in this area. Right. Get our thick line in. Oh, I went a little crazy there. It's okay. It's all right. We're gonna leave it, since I was just talking about imperfection. Okay, so maybe, and with watercolor you can lift it a little bit. So I just dabbed a little water to lift some of that. See how some of that came up? That's what I love about watercolor, is that you can fix some of your mistakes by lifting it with water. Maybe not 100% remove it, but some. You can improve it. Okay, that's our top layer of shells. I'm gonna go ahead and, I feel like my screen is tipped. I'm gonna go ahead and do the bottom layer, and then we'll move back. Actually, I want to let this dry. All right, so I want to let this dry, and so we'll switch back to the leaves. All right, so I don't think I'm going to use my medium. I'm going to go straight to my dark color for the leaves. And remember what I said, that the graphics are where it should be darkest. So we've got a line here. So we're going to go ahead, just like the shells, and just make a thick line on top of that. And right here. And even though this is dotted right here, that's probably where it's bending, and this is the dark vein. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So we're just going to get a good outline on that. And then these are a little trickier, but I think we just put an outline here. And the thing about watercolor pencils is you don't truly treat it like coloring. You don't always color in the whole space, because your light areas is your water. And so if you leave some space for blending, you're gonna have some pigment that you'll be able to blend. All right, so I've just, oh, I missed this one. So all I did is I just outlined the veins with my dark color. Now we're gonna come in with our water, brush number 0. We're just gonna soften that. And this is so small, don't worry about if you're filling in or covering up the base. It's not the whole grouping of leaves. All right, so we're just kind of softening that up. And then let's rinse our brush real good. Okay, and then same with this. You could decide a dark side. So maybe you brush this hard line to the left because our light is on the right. Same here, and then you just leave the right side light, the light green. Now these under here, I think I'll fill them in all the way because they're underneath all those other leaves. There, so we got some light and some dark green. I'm thinking, well, let's let it dry and we'll come back and finish it off. But that's looking pretty close. All right, now let's take our pink. Is this dry? It's pretty dry. All right, now we're going to take our pink and do this bottom row. So we're just outlining. Go ahead and outline all at once. And if you feel you need to outline like where under shade, where you think it's dark, you could do that now too. In the corners, under the other leaves, or the other shells. The reason I combined this into one video is so that we could go back and forth, let things dry, because that would be a more realistic coloring session. That's how I handle waiting for things to dry. Okay. Okay, now we're going to take our water and soften those edges. There's really no wrong way to do this. It's just it's good to try new techniques and see whether you like them. You don't know until you try. So that's underneath. I kind of filled those little pieces all the way, but not all of them, just some. Somewhere it's a little tighter. And if it's so close you're creating like this little weird line, you could go ahead and soften that up. All right, these are getting to be kind of tiny pieces. When it's small like that, sometimes you have to improvise. And we've got but try not to be too consistent or it won't look realistic. There, what do you guys think? They're looking shell-like and layered. All right, we'll let that kind of dry and we'll come back to the leaves. I think I want some of the tips to be a little darker. So we'll fill in some tip areas, some corners. Get a little bit more contrast. Now you could also at this point use a regular colored pencil or an ink marker to get some deeper contrast. But I'm happy with sticking with the colored pencils. What I've heard, so if you're in the market, what I've heard is that the Polychromos and the Albert Durr Faber-Castell watercolor pencils are like this close to being the same. This close. But the Polychromos have just a little bit more pigment, so you're going to get a little bit more contrast. So if that's what you're going for, you might want to spring for Polychromos. But if you're willing to not have that deepness or use something else to create more deepness, darkness, and contrast, the watercolor pencils are a lot cheaper. So it would be a way to have two products in one. You could totally use these just like watercolor pencils and blend and everything, and not activate them, and that would be fine. You can use them that way. In fact, I may do a piece like that. If you'd like to see that, let me know. And then these little pieces here, since I've got some water on my brush, let's darken these. I view this as kind of like a vines, and this page definitely is open to interpretation. And then you've got like some kind of wood branch coming across, so I'm probably going to color that dark brown. But I think the leaves are done. I could blend this out just a tiny bit, soften it so it's not a hard line. But that's totally up to you, how far you want to take it. I want to have a little bit of lightness there. I want it to be on. Oh, this could be darker. Yeah, that could be darker. If you want it to be really dark, you can color with it wet, but it's not my favorite technique. Yeah, that looks good. I like it. Alright, we're not quite done with the shells, but we're close. So we're going to take our darkest violet color, red violet. And where the shells meet, this is dry, right? Yeah. Where the shells meet is darker, usually, when you look at a shell. So we're just going to color in some dark points where they meet, and then we'll blend that out. Now these, you can't see them, but you could pick a few spots where they overlap and the shadow's going to be dark. But totally up to you how far you want to take that. I'm just kind of doing a little bit. Like that. And we'll take our water. Let's go back to our number 4 brush. Not being as intricate. Now this water on this brush is the white. So keep that in mind. So what you want to do is you want to take your brush, go into the light area and drag into the dark so that it doesn't pull a bunch of dark into your light areas, into your light areas. The tricky part about layering is you don't want to cover up your base color or your second color, because then what's the point if you just covered it up? So we're just dragging into the dark areas. And you can, if you felt like it wasn't enough, you can drag it around. It is there for the taking. Okay, and then if you feel it's not blending well, you can load your brush up with water and just kind of blend it out. Kind of dab the edges and soften them up, lighten it up a little. This isn't really blending. I'm lifting and lightening with water and letting it bleed and do its own thing. This is kind of rough. So I'm just kind of scrubbing with water here. But you can't do too much or you'll compromise the paper, but you can do a little bit to kind of correct. I don't like this hard edge right here. Well, it's kind of hard to, can't always get rid of a hard edge. I think that looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Take a zoom out and take a look. When you're zoomed way in, sometimes you don't have a realistic view. Yeah, zoomed out, I see some shading and they look fairly realistic. I like it. What do you guys think? Now I also have this bird, I've got the background and the water to do. I have a few leaves in this upper corner that we have, which I'm gonna color the same concept. Where you see this vein and you're gonna make that dark and then blend that out. And then for the outline, we're going to use a metallic. And then these tiny leaves, I'm using just juniper. I'm doing a light base, and then I come in with a darker color where the vein is and blend that out. Alright, so I think that's going to do it for this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you were able to color along with me, have some mental and physical health, and I hope you enjoyed what I presented here. Alright, so if you liked the video, please like the video. If you would like to watch more content, what more content, Carrie? Well, I think I'm gonna do some metallics on this page next, so be sure and stay tuned for that video. Subscribe, like, hit the bell, comment. I'd love to hear from you guys, especially if you're doing this page as well. And I will see you on the flip side. Happy coloring!